Welcome to the 47th Annual Session of the Hague International Model United Nations. My name is Florian Keulers, and I will be serving as this year's President of the General Assembly. I would now like to yield the floor to Mr. Han Maurits Schaatveld, former Project Director of the Nuclear Security Summit and currently the Project Director of the upcoming Global Conference on Cyberspace.
You are having a very special THIMUN this year. Last year, your colleagues did a model nuclear security summit in this same building. This year, you are really going to participate because we are going to do a test of the Wi-Fi and internet connection. And I need 1,600 people with an iPhone, an iPad, a BlackBerry, a Samsung, whatever. So I'm going to ask all of you to take your phones. Sorry? It shouldn't be too slow. It's your machinist. Yes? Okay, now we will go on to the questions. People think about it, not enough. If 1/3 of you are not thinking about security risks, that is a problem. And I will definitely suggest to the organizers to put that as a resolution for the UN during the whole year and maybe for you next year. I rely completely on security measures of my phone. Is maybe a bit optimistic, but it is better than nothing. Now we go on to the third question. Do you think, and now we get into your UN role, this is why you came to The Hague, does the government have a responsibility to regulate the internet? And it is definitely a matter for discussion, and this is going to be the main topic of discussion during the Global Conference on Cyberspace 2015. I want to thank you very much for helping us with this test, and thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to do it. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank the Hall for their cooperation, but I would like to remind you and ask you to switch off your phones now for the purposes of the ceremony. Thank you. I now ask the House to rise for a moment of silence to remember those that died through natural disasters. We especially remember the victims of the recent terrorist attacks and highlight the fact that tomorrow is International Holocaust Day. Please rise. Thank you. I would now like to especially welcome the keynote speaker, Ambassador Koen Davidsen, and the Deputy Mayor of The Hague, Mrs. Ingrid van Engelshoven. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Deputy Mayor of the Municipality of The Hague, Mrs. Ingrid van Engelshoven. Mrs. van Engelshoven, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear delegates, dear guests, welcome all to The Hague. And it's an honor for me to speak here today at the opening of The Hague International Model United Nations 2015. During the past 47 years, THIMUN has developed into one of the most well-known international youth events. And both the City of The Hague and the citizens of The Hague are very proud to host this event each year, because it bears the name of our city. And of course, THIMUN fits perfectly within the international profile of our city. The Hague is not only the political center in the Netherlands, as it has been for centuries, It's also the city where the whole world is at home, in various ways. As an international city of peace and justice, The Hague is actively working to achieve a more peaceful, fair and safe world. In fact, this is even prescribed in Article 90 of our Constitution. And the city of The Hague also sees it as its own task and mission to strengthen the rule of law around the world. The flawless proceedings at last year's Nuclear Security Summit, here in this World Forum, as President Obama described it, once again clearly confirmed The Hague's unique position in the international field. The Hague is home to more than 300 international institutions, organizations and NGOs. And the symbol of our international city is the Peace Palace, which houses the International Court of Justice, the Permanent Court of Arbitration and his famous library. In The Hague there are around 18,000 people working day in, day out to create a better world. A world without chemical weapons and without ethnic cleansing. A world in which conflicts between states are fought not on the battlefield, but in the courtroom. A world where the rule of law reigns and not the rule of the mob. And those who think to thwart the rules of international law are held responsible here in The Hague. Like the Ugandan rebel Commander Dominic Ogman, who arrived in The Hague last week to stand trial on war crimes charged at the International Criminal Court. But The Hague is not only an international city because of the international and European organizations at work here. Almost half of the more than 500,000 people who live in The Hague have roots outside the Netherlands. All the religions of the world are represented here. Nearly all languages of the world are spoken here. Dear delegates, when I look at your program for the coming days, I see that you will be using the various forms of debate used by the United Nations. And UN is a brainchild of Franklin Roosevelt. And more than 70 years ago, he formulated the 4 freedoms that together constitute a framework for a just world. And these freedoms were included in the preamble of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And they are the freedom of speech and expression, the freedom of religion, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. And in practical terms, the last to mean that everyone must have enough to eat and to drink, a roof over his or her head, access to good education, and the right to be protected against persecution or oppression. And these 4 freedoms form an inseparable whole and affect every human being on earth. And they're also part of the DNA of our international city of peace and justice. During the next few days, you will be looking for solutions to current political issues and the problems of the present time. And the challenge we all face is to find these solutions. Solutions that will ensure that a growing portion of the world's population is not left without the basic essentials of life, and that they can live in freedom and safety. Solutions that prevent political conflicts, or even worse, armed conflicts, or especially actual in these days, terrorism. And of course, solutions that will enable and secure sustainable growth and the protection of the environment. And no matter where in the development spectrum a particular country stands, whether establishing peace or protecting the planet, eradicating poverty or encouraging economic opportunity, it needs good laws and regulations that are fairly administered by transparent and accountable institutions, and that most importantly produce fair outcomes for all. Besides this, I believe that one of the most important instruments available to us in confronting the challenges of this century is the development and diffusion of knowledge. Knowledge and education are the tools that will enable us to tackle the essential problems that may arise in the future. Terror and oppression can only flourish in the darkness of ignorance and deception. And what we need to do is bring together knowledge and networks and ensure that this knowledge is actually and practical. Knowledge of and about each other is essential. And after all, knowledge about each other is the basis of mutual respect. Respect for the ideas and the beliefs of each other. Respect for the needs and wishes of each other. In turn, this respect for each other promotes cooperation. And we have to cooperate if we want to face the challenges of this era. This is why your presence here today is so important. Here you can learn from and about each other. You can debate and confer, still with respecting each other. And you can make decisions together. I hope you will listen to one another, that you will discuss with each other, and that after the discussion you will decide. The Hague International United Nations form an excellent opportunity for you to get a taste of the world of the United Nations. It offers you the chance to gain experiences and share them with each other. And to meet peers from around the world, each with his or her own national and cultural background, but with shared interest in international affairs. You are all the world citizens of the future. For the coming days, I wish you a great deal of success and above all, a lot of fun during the Hague International United Nations. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the near future I bump up to one of you here in town and you will be part of our international community as a judge, a diplomat, or a scientist, or whatever. But in any case, I hope to meet again in The Hague. Thank you very much.